thank you for the many blessings we have, the ability to gather and to learn and share with other Rotarians. Thank you for our Rotarian leadership that gives us opportunities to do good around the world. We are blessed in many ways. May we use our talents to in service through Rotary in other ways that we can. And thank you for all these blessings we lift up to you today. Amen.
I want to add one thing. I want to ask God to help the 500 kids that haven't found their parents to find their parents, or they're going to be orphans. They don't know where the parents are. They didn't keep track, and they took these kids from their parents, and now they don't know how to get them back together, and it upsets me. I mean, that is not what we are as a country. I don't have a problem. You don't want to let people in the country that don't belong. That's fine. But you don't make children into orphans because of something like that. And I would hope that they find their parents, because it saddens me that they have it. So David,
sure they would. Oh.
Yeah, I just think that's something. I was watching, it really broke my heart. They have 50 kids that are less than 5 years old. They don't know where their parents are, and they don't know how to find them. So
they're going to have to do DNA testing or something. They'll do it.
Do nothing. They're not here. 350 of the parents, they send them home without the kids, and now they're not here, and they don't know how to find them, and the kids are here. So that's a pretty sad statement. I mean, I'm not a genius, but if I have a kid and a parent going in two places, I keep a database. And this is where I put the kid, and this is where I put the parent. And when I want to connect the dot, I go in the database, say this is where they are. They didn't do that. They just separated them, and they didn't keep track. And I think that's a very sad thing for those children. Anyway, I don't want to belay that, but I thought we should say something nice to help the kids.
In charge.
Yeah, well, Howard will put you in charge.
I don't know what I can do. I know the ACLU is trying. They really are trying to help find the parents, but it made me very sad to see that. And it makes me ashamed, really, as a citizen. We're supposed to be better than that. That's just I don't mean to be political, but that's how I feel. We're better as a nation than that. That's how I feel. Anyway, David, let's do the pledge.
Okay, no kneeling during the pledge.
All right.
There's a flag.
I'm standing. Where's the flag? Oh, there's the flag. Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
to the
to the
republic
republic which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, David. Okay. Linda usually knows if there's anything we need to discuss. So I'll just ask you, Linda, is there anything I need to announce or anything that you think we need to know about that before we introduce our speaker?
I don't think I have anything this week.
Where we're going?
We're going to Zone Institute. We're, like I said, in Colorado and all that, and we'll be in Boise, Idaho on Monday. Next Monday, we'll be in Boise.
Lovely place. Lovely place. I love Boise. It's very, very nice.
That's where my starting of my governor line started, in Boise.
Oh, Russell Brunson. I don't know if you know Russell, but Russell Brunson's one of the big internet gurus. He's a good friend of mine, and he lives there. Amazing young man. He did a workshop. You'd enjoy this. As Shireen, he's a speaker, and he did a workshop, and in 90 minutes, he sold $15 million worth of product.
Okay, that's incredible.
15 million.
I've never heard such a thing.
What did he sell?
He has a thing called ClickFunnels. So instead of setting up a web page, it goes to like you buy the book, and it says, "Would you like the video?" And you buy the video. Would you like the one-on-one lessons? You get, and it just takes you to a series. And so he has, what he sold them was, I'll set up your funnels, I'll write your copy, I will help you make your first million, just as I have. And I will personally work with you for the next year. And the guy's a genius at this, so everyone in the room was like, I'll do that. So he charged them $1,800, and he had enough people do it that he made $15 million. And he's a really smart guy. I like Russell a lot. He's a good man. He's a Mormon, and he did his mission in Camden, New Jersey. I don't know if you know how bad Camden, New Jersey is, but it was the murder capital of America. So going door to door as an 18-year-old on your own, trying to convert people to another religion, that takes a personality that's good at selling and very strong, and it really matured him. I could see how doing that for 2 years. They're not allowed to call their parents except on Christmas and for their birthdays, and the rest of the year you're on your own. And I think it's almost like a Peace Corps kind of a thing. They grow up, and I think it made him the person he is today. So he's there. His name is Russell Brunson. Anyway, I want to introduce our speaker. Let me get your introduction. I have it on another page, and I will pull it up. I just need a second. She sent it to me, and she did a good job, so I'd like to use it. So, do people ever baffle you? Have you ever said, why don't people just do their job? Are you ready to increase your employee engagement? If you answered yes, you're in the right place. It's my privilege to introduce Dr. Shereen McHenry. She's known as the People IQ expert. She's a former graduate professor turned full-time professional speaker and author. She has a bachelor's in business, a master's in education, a PhD in counseling, and as the author of Navigate, Understanding the 5 Types of People, Pick, Choose to Create a Life You Love, and extensive articles on leadership and workplace issues. She's been quoted in numerous publications, including Wall Street Journal. And she said that made her mother very happy. Her mother was impressed. It's always good to impress your mother, Shereen.
Mama.
She has spoken on 3 continents and extensively throughout the United States. And when she's not working, she's lounging around on the lake, tooling around in a Mustang convertible, or downhill skiing in the winter. So please join me in welcoming international speaker, author, and favorite oldest daughter, Dr. Shereen McHenry. And Shereen, I am going to mute my microphone so it doesn't interfere with your presentation. And I will be here, and you can now share the screen with your slides.
Okay, so that is not currently shared.
No, it's not.
Okay, let's try that again. Sorry, y'all. So while I'm trying to figure that out.
Linda would know. Linda, what does she need to click on to share her screen? On the bottom where it says share screen, do you see that? Could you click on that? See if that works.
We were sharing it earlier.
We were sharing it, and then it split. Maybe Linda would know. Linda, it was sharing, and then it split into these 4 boxes. I'm not sure what happened.
Is that sharing now?
I'm not sure. It just says your name.
Okay, well, let's...
If you move your cursor across the bottom of the screen, a ribbon will appear, and it will have choices to share, a choice to share.
I saw those earlier, but I'm not seeing them now. I'm so sorry, y'all. I got on early and even practiced, and I'm not doing well. Okay.
I think you just move your cursor across the bottom.
Share a screen.
Howard, be sure to record.
I'm recording. I am recording. Yes, I am recording.
Sherry.
There you go. I don't know what you did, but
There it is.
it
There we
worked.
go.
Fantastic. So here's my invitation to you. If you have any questions, just jump in and ask, and I'd love to make it interactive. If there's at any point there's something you want to add or something that you have a question about. But this is something I'm very passionate about. I noticed very early on in my academic career that people were different, that I had students who went above and beyond every single day, and I had students who did what they needed to do, and I had students who would only do it if you would poke and prod them, and then I had students who, if you held their feet to the fire, they got kind of ugly. And so I began to look at this, and faith is a big part of my life, and I actually said to God, could you give me something as profound and simple as the 5 Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman that would revolutionize and change relationships around the globe? And this is the answer to that prayer. And I would love to jump in and tell you about the 5 types of people and help you in your personal as well as your professional life and as well as within your organization. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay. So the first type of person, if we can get it to go, I call them high flyers. They are often what we might call type A personalities. They're driven, they're competitive, they're hardworking, they're conscientious. If they say something is going to get done, it will be done. It will be done well, and it will be done early. And so when they get a job, they immediately begin chunking it out, and they do not relax or feel good until the job is off their plate. And unfortunately, what we do with workers like these and with people like this in our life, we actually reward them with more work. And that's really not a good reward. It's the equivalent of rewarding a pie eating contest winner a pie after he's eaten a lot of pies. And so what I want to invite you to do if you're a high flyer is to begin to take strategic care of yourself and to begin to recognize that people are different than you. This is the type who tends to rise up into leadership because they're very good. And they're the type that typically wants to pull their hair out and say, why don't you just do your job? Just do your job. Other people drive them nuts because if you give these people a job, it gets done. So if you have a high flyer in your life, in the workplace or in your personal life, what you need to do to set them up for success so that they have life enjoyment, so that they have peace, and so that they're able to perform at the highest levels is you need to provide them the resources that they need to be successful. And you need to provide them at the beginning. High flyers don't do well with, oh, and by the way, oh, and here's this, and oh, by the way, because they get their plan and then they just start marching to their plan. And so those are like hand grenades that are coming in, going off, and they feel like they have to take cover. So you want to provide what they need for them at the front. And then the best thing that you can do with a high flyer is you can get out of their way. Because if you micromanage a high flyer and you keep checking in on a high flyer, these are what the thoughts that go through their mind. They may not say them out loud. Do you think I'm stupid? Have I ever let you down before? Why are you checking on me? Do you not trust me? And it's confusing to them and it gets in their way. So again, it's just a lot of stuff that they don't need to deal with. This is the type of person, again, that if you give them something, they're going to do fine. And you could say to them, would you like for me to check in on you? Or can I just trust that if you need something, you'll ask me? The second thing that you need to do for your high flyers is you need to protect them. And they need to be protected from 3 people. They need to be protected from you. So in life, we give work to busy people. We have a adage in our country, and that adage goes, when you want something done, give it to a busy person, because we know that they're the doers and the completers. And so you have to protect them from them becoming your go-to person. And if you fail to protect them from yourself, you're going to overburden them because it's easier for you to give somebody else work and to know that it'll get done than to manage other people or to keep tabs on other people. You need to protect them from other people. So other people in workplaces, churches, family members always like to give high flyer jobs because, again, they get done. And so you want to protect them from other people filling up their plate. And so you might want to say, hey, before you give her anything or him anything, please run it by me. I'm keeping tabs on what he's doing, so we won't burn him out. And then the last person that you need to protect them from is from themselves. Because they are so driven and so conscientious, they feel guilty when they say no. And they feel like they haven't done enough, and they feel like they should be doing more. And I interviewed one woman who's a high flyer, and she called it the curse of competence. That if you're a competent high flyer, people are just going to keep giving you work. And really what we want to do is empower people to begin to say no. So if you're a high flyer or you have one in your life, I'd like to help you with some ways to say no. So the first way is to say no. That's a complete sentence. You can say no, thank you, if you want to be polite. That won't work for me. And that's a great way, especially in a professional setting where somebody's giving you work that they shouldn't be giving you, or they're changing deadlines or asking you to do something different, but it's great in your personal life as well. And what you need to do is to not give excuses or reasons. So I have a friend who's a high flyer, and when I ask her to do stuff, she will say to me, oh, that doesn't work for me, pal. And I'm always like, okay, and we figure out something that works for her and works for me. It's a great way to do life. Well, I began to watch myself, and I'm like, she is strong, and she says no, and I'm respectful of that. Why do I feel the need to micromanage whether or not people like me? So I used to, when I would say no, I say, really like to help you with that, but I got a lot on my plate and I'm headed out of town and I haven't been feeling well and I've got 67 things that I have to do. And what I'm giving people is a very mixed message, and we don't want high flyers to give mixed messages. And the mixed message is, I really want to do it. Here are my obstacles. And so if you want me to do it and you think I want to do it, then you're going to jump into helping me remove my obstacles. I don't want you to remove my obstacles. I want you to say your line, and this is what your line should be. Oh, Shireen, you're so busy. Take a pass. We'll give it to somebody else. In my whole life, nobody has ever gotten that line right. Have they ever gotten it right for y'all? They don't when we dribble out excuses. So if you want to be powerful, it's again, no, thank you. That doesn't work for me, and no more excuses. If you want to negotiate and you can do something cheerfully, and I think that's always the litmus test is, can I do it cheerfully? And you can say, well, I can't do that, but I'd be happy to do this. Or you can say, hey, my plate is full, but I'm flattered to be asked, and you might want to give it to, and then you give it to somebody who doesn't carry their weight. And that's how you begin to redistribute the workload in a family and in an organization and in the workplace. So I did a training for I actually keynoted at a conference up in Alaska in November and worked with the people on saying no. And one woman came up to me so excited. She's like, I told my boss no, and I didn't offer any excuses. And he just said, okay. I said, I'm so proud of you for saying no. And she said, then I said, you should ask whatever the woman's name was. And he's like, well, that's not going to work, because she was the resident slacker. And when the woman said that to me, I went, oh, that's not good leadership. Leadership is getting people to pull their weight. So we'll get to there in a couple of minutes. But we need to protect them. They need to be able to say no. The last way that I like to share saying no is, I can't do that right now, but I can do that next week, next month, next year. I wouldn't say it, but I might think when pigs fly, when things start to freeze, those would be the kind of things that you just would probably refrain from saying, because you would come off as perhaps sarcastic or snarky. But you must protect, if you're a high flyer, you have to protect your resources. You have to become comfortable with saying no. And one of the things that I've learned in life is that guilt goes away. So for most people, it's anywhere from 15 minutes to 3 days. And so if you feel guilty saying no, I want you to white knuckle it, and I just want you to say no, and I want you to know that the guilt will pass. Resentment, on the other hand, always builds. So if you have to pick between guilt and resentment, I want you to pick guilt every time, because guilt goes away, resentment builds. Does this make sense so far?
What was the reward part? Is that?
So let's talk about reward. We want to reward with them with things that are meaningful to them. So what a lot of people do in the workplace is they give across the board rewards, like a salary adjustment, or they don't do incentive pay. And so the smart employer, even if you have an across the board, you do bonuses based on performance. When you reward your high flyers, financially, as well as perhaps with tickets to a show or a gift card to take their family out to dinner, because you know that they take time away from their family to help you. If you will reward them, you incentivize them to work harder. When you treat them the same as everybody else, you create resentment, because they know that they're doing the lion's share of the work, and yet everybody is sharing in the rewards. And that tends to make them angry and frustrated, and you can lose them. And so you want to reward them financially when possible. You can reward them as a employer, or as you can say things like, take a long lunch, get out of here, I don't want to see you until Monday, and unless the building is burning down, I'm not going to contact you. There isn't anything that you need to do this weekend. A lot of leaders will say, well, I can't do that, because they're afraid that people will say to them, well, you're not fair. And what I want to say to you is, when you try to be fair and treat everybody the same, you're actually being unfair, and you're not treating people equally. And so you need to reward the behaviors that you want to have repeated. So again, you want to reward the high flyers so that they will stay engaged and want to do more. And then everybody else is watching. And if they're motivated by money, by time off, by other things, then they're going to start engaging in the behaviors that bring about those rewards. And so if somebody says to you, well, that's not fair, you don't do that for me, I'd love for you to say something like, well, if you did that way, as soon as you start producing at that level, I will do this for you. I give you my word. So what we just need to know is that these people are the burden bearers. They're the hardest workers. They're the people carrying the heavy load, and yet they're the people that we repeatedly burn out. There's a woman, Kay, in the workplace, and she's a rock star. She's a high flyer, and she went into her work and was exactly who she is. And within 2 years, her job had almost doubled. So she went into her boss and she took a list and she said, here's everything that I'm responsible for and everything that's on my plate. I can't keep going at this pace. And the boss had a choice point here. He could say, well, suck it up, sailor. That's the culture. And if you don't want to do it, somebody else will be happy to. And there are bosses who will say that. I am a big fan of Maya Angelou. And she says, when people tell you who they are, believe them. A boss who says that has told you who they are. And if you would say that to an employee or to a spouse or to a child, you have told people who you are and that you care about the work getting done, but not necessarily about the person. But this guy was aces. And what he said to her is, oh my gosh, I had no idea. You make it all look so easy and you never complain, because that's the mark of the high flyer. They just keep doing more. They're like the duck gliding across the water, paddling furiously to get across. So he took her job and he cut it back in half. And within 2 years, her job doubled again. And she went back in and she said, I can't do this anymore. I'm burned out. Well, he was not willing to lose this rock star. And he said to her, you tell me what you want and we will create a position that utilizes your strength. He had the power and the ability to do that. And so he created a job for her. It's been about 2 years, and I expect the next time that I talk to her to hear that her job has probably doubled. So the boss needs to be keeping tabs on that, but she needs to begin saying no and to quit taking on so many tasks. So it's a dance that the two must do together. So I think what might be helpful for you to know is that Gallup does an employee engagement poll every year, and basically the numbers rounded off are 30% of American employees, 85,000 of them basically self-reported that they were engaged and committed to their work and to their workplace. 50% reported being passively disengaged, And then 20% reported being actively disengaged and trying to cause problems. And I think you see this in organizations, hopefully not your club, but you'll see it in some organizations. You'll see this in neighborhoods. You'll see this in families. You see it showing up in the workplace. And so I read an article once, and I've never been able to find it, so I can't even quote the person, but he basically said, you got to look at this as you've got 10 people on a bike. The 3 in the front are pedaling for all they're worth. The 5 in the middle are coasting with their legs out, and the 2 in the back are trying to wreck the bike. And so what we got to quit doing is burning out the people on the front, and the high flyers are the ones who are most at risk for burnout. Any thoughts, questions, comments?
I have one. Years ago, I went to work at a law firm, and after a week, they called me in, and they said I was working too fast. And the other people were angry at me because they were doing it for 10 years, and they didn't want to work as fast as me. And they said, if you can't slow down, we're going to let you go. And I just thought that was kind of bizarre. But have you encountered
what
that?
you bumped up to was a culture, and you were not going to be rewarded for working hard. They were de-incentivizing you, which had to be incredibly disappointing. And I'm wondering how long you stay.
Not that long, but it
No.
was kind of strange. I couldn't imagine a company would say, don't work hard. We want you to work less like everyone else. I know.
Yeah, that's insanity, because productivity is tied to profitability. And so when you're like, literally, they're saying to a high flyer, don't rock the boat,
And it
don't
was a law
change.
firm. I mean, it was a big law firm.
And I just say that I'll have to use that in a story at some point, Howard. That's horrific.
I just couldn't understand it. It bewildered me, but I figured I didn't want to lose my job, so I slowed down.
Yeah. And then my hunch is, as soon as you were able, you jumped ship and you started looking immediately.
Yeah.
Yes, because that wouldn't fit with who you are. All right, so those are our high flyers. Any other thoughts or questions before we move on?
Well, I'm concerned a little bit about time that we have left to get the other 4 in.
Well, we can do that, I guarantee you. So I think we keep moving. How's that sound?
Good deal.
Okay, so the next group are the steady gliders. These are also part of the 30% who are on the front of the bike pedaling for all that they're worth. And a steady glider is a first cousin to a high flyer. The difference is they are not driven in the same way. So the high flyer is driven to be the best, to achieve, to go, 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 go. They're more competitive by nature. The steady glider is motivated by their values. And so these are people who turn down work promotions to stay and to let their kids go through high school, or because their spouse loves the community or their family lives there. They're driven by a different set of values. And so the steady glider is really interesting. Hardworking, conscientious. They are the unsung heroes of the workplace and of families, because they do their job, they don't complain, but they don't ever raise their hand and say, I can do more, I want to do more. And when you give them something new, you need to expect that they're going to have a negative reaction, because they lack confidence, and high flyers rarely lack confidence in their ability. And so the steady glider will panic. My sister is a prototype steady glider. She has a master's degree in education, was the director of career services at a university. And when she had her children, she wanted to raise her children. So that was her value, and she and her husband worked together, and she stepped out of the workplace, and she absolutely loved the privilege and getting to live her value. Well, she's bright. She has a master's degree. She's a hard worker. She went back into the workforce now that her kids are grown, and she picked a job where she can show up at 8 o'clock. Her day, she's working in a school, ends at 3:30, and she never worries, and she doesn't take work home with her. And that is the value to them. So in that law firm, Howard, you might have been working 60, 80 hours a week until they slowed you down. This steady glider, they don't mind working hard, but they are generally not the people who want to do a ton of overtime. because there are other values that are important to them. So my sister is hilarious. She's highly competent, but she'll call me when she's given a new task in a panic. I can't do this. I'm so stressed out. They gave me a new thing. And I always just say to her, well, but you used to do that all the time. You've got that. That's not hard. And then she kind of like rolls back through her mind. She's like, oh, I do know what I'm doing. And so really what you need to do with a steady glider is mentor them. You need to encourage them and let them know that you believe in them. You need to hold their hand a lot more than a high flyer. So if they're given a new job, you're going to want to probably meet with them once a week as they are learning the ropes. It'll increase their confidence, and it also keeps them on the path that you want them on. So you just want to be aware that they will work very, very hard for you. They just have a panic reaction on new stuff, and they want to live a life of their values, and they're perfectly happy until a high flyer tries to convince them that they're not a hard worker or that what they value in life is not important. And here's what I'm going to say. You want these people in your family. You want them in your workplace. These are the people who are the social glue. They add the fun. They care about people in almost all cases. And so they're a very, very important part of your team. We just need to begin to mentor them and utilize them. So as a steady glider, if you think about it, you can lift them higher if you'll give them a puff of air. They can soar higher on the wind. They just need the wind to be able to do that, and that's what we're able to give them. We want to reward the work that they're doing. We want to reward and acknowledge the risk that they're taking. And the other thing that we want to do is recognize that this is often young women. So with men in our society, there's a term called optimistic overconfidence. And what that means is most men, if they see a job that they want, if they can do 85% of it, will throw their hat in the ring hands down, because they want to be considered and they want to have that opportunity and they believe that they can do it. Women, on the other hand, the research shows even if they can't do 100% of the job on the day their feet hit the ground, they don't even throw their hat into the ring. And so what we want to do is encourage people to throw their hat into the rings. I personally hope that men never lose their optimistic overconfidence. I think it's an incredible presence. But I want women to gain some optimistic overconfidence, or at least to say, I could try that. I could do that if I had a chance. So steady gliders are glue. They will, if you set the bar high, you blow and you give them wind underneath their wings. These people are amazing. They can do more than they're currently doing. You just have to mentor, encourage, and watch what they're doing. Thoughts, comments, questions on that?
I was going to recommend that you hold the questions to the end so you can.
Okay, we can do that.
That way we know you got everything done.
Okay, we got my high flyers making sure I get it done. And we're done at 8, correct, Howard?
I didn't hear that last thing.
We're
What?
done at 7 p.m. your time, correct?
6:30.
6:30.
Oh, 6:30. Wow, I thought I had an hour. No wonder you guys are worried about me. Let's get going. I'm like, well, we're doing great. Okay, the next group. Yeah, note to self. Okay, so I have 10 minutes. We can do this. So the next group are lackers. And lackers are lacking either a mindset or a skill set that is preventing them from being successful personally and or professionally. So we know that it's a skill set problem if skill set training works. So if you send somebody to a workshop and it works, it's a skill set problem. But if you have somebody who can't do a job and you give them training over and over and over again, you want to pull your hair out, you're so frustrated with them, it's not a skill set problem. So when you keep doing skills training, you're addressing the symptom, but you're missing the root. And so the savvy person with high people IQ says, all right, what's going on here? It's not a skill set problem. And you need to identify, and this means you need to talk with the person, particularly if you're a parent or in a leadership role, help me understand what's going on. And they may or may not be able to tell you. But this is where, if they want to continue to be working with you or for you, they need to remediate. And that's where it's very helpful to hire a life coach, to go to a counselor, perhaps to a clergy, but somebody who can help them get a different perspective and address the way that they think and the internal barriers that are holding them back. Because coaches are great and counselors are great at helping people get over their internal barriers. So literally, your job is to go, something is lacking. Let's figure out what's going on. Skill set training isn't working, so we're going to start looking at mindset, and then up to the individual to do what they need to do. And then as a leader, particularly in the workplace or as a parent, you have the right to ensure that they're actually doing what you've asked them to do. And that can be a condition of staying employed. As a kid, you need them to, let's just say school. We need them to be successful and get through school. So how do we ensure that they stay on that path towards success? So I didn't like to study in school, and that bothered my mom. And one semester I came home with some pretty average grades. And my mother's like, you get to study an hour every night for the next 6 weeks until your grades go up. So she identified that there was a problem. She set a remediation plan. The grades came out. It was very clear that I had brought them up, and I never wanted to be forced into doing that again. So that's an example in family relationships. All right, let's look at the next group, and they are the slackers. And these are the people who tend to drive people nuts. So there are people who are lazy. There are people who are slackers. There are people who do not care that if they coast, somebody else has to pedal twice as hard. And those people are very different than the next group of people. But in either case, whether they don't care or there's something else going on, you're going to do three things with this group of people. You're going to clarify what the expectations are, who's doing what when. Then you enforce deadlines. That means you have to have a deadline, and you need to, when somebody misses the deadline, you need to hold them accountable. And it may be you disappointed me is holding somebody accountable, and it may be I'm going to need to dock your pay or whatever it is. But you need to enforce the deadlines, and what you have to protect is your resources. And especially if you're a boss and dependent on somebody, you've got to build in a buffer zone. So why are deadlines so important is because slackers, in the most cases, are rockets. So if you think about a rocket, they sit on a launch pad and they do not activate until there's a countdown. Well, the slacker does the same thing. The high flyer gets a job, chunks it out, boom, 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 feels good, breathes when the job is done. The slacker says, well, I don't quite know what I got to do. I need to think about that. And they spend all this time kind of like building the rocket internally. You don't see any movement. But as the deadline approaches, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, their engines ignite and they get liftoff and they work harder and faster than anyone. But what activates the rocket is always the countdown and the deadline. And so what you have to do, again, is if you have a rocket on your team and you need something Wednesday at noon, you say to a high flyer, hey, I need that Wednesday morning. You don't have to worry about it. To a rocket, you're going to say, I need that Monday by 5 p.m. because you're always going to build in a buffer zone. So these people are really fun. You need them on your team because they are the only one type that is not tied to a plan. So they respond very well to a crisis. They respond to a change of plans, and they go, oh, here's all we need to do. You want them on their team. You want them working hard. You want them having fun. You want them laughing, but you want them producing. So you must enforce and safeguard your resources. The last group are the hackers. And these are people, the two in the back of the bike who are actively trying to wreck the bike. And the first one type of hacker is a hacker who's angry and they are lacking conflict resolution skills. So they're doing jabs and they're telling you through their behavior that they're angry at you. They treat you poorly, they get angry at you, they snap at you. And what they really need to do are develop conflict resolution skills. So that's an easy skill set, and it does take the mindset of courage, and that's very easy to remediate. But there are people that are hackers who are very different. They like to cause chaos. They like drama. They don't mind hurting people. They say things like, I like to pit people against each other. I like it when everybody gets upset. They are people who lie. They are people who are bullies and eviscerate people in the workplace. They just start shouting at them. And what their entire intent to do is to torment people and manipulate people to get their needs met and to do what they want to do. And what I want to say to you is, if they're a hacker because they're angry, conflict resolution skills. If they're a hacker because they have really bad behaviors and things that are negatively impacting their mental health, and they're drawn again to drama, chaos, hurting people, very, very different bird that you're talking about. And so only leaders can take hackers on. You cannot take them on side to side. You don't have the power. But if you're a leader, you have the power to solve the problem. You can say, we will not do that behavior here. We had a very negative relationship back when I was a faculty member between the administration and the faculty. We got a new president. He came to each college, and I remember 2 sentences, and this is what that man said. I have an open door policy. You can talk to me about anything, but you will do it civilly. And boy, that university changed on a dime. He left, a wonderful man came in, but he didn't set the civility rules. And within less than a year, the faculty had gone on strike and done a vote of no confidence. So I was recently working with an organization that had a lot of hacker behaviors. And afterwards, the top administrators who I had worked with got together, and they literally changed their employee performance evaluation forms for all their employee groups. And now one of the things that they measure is treats others with civility and respect. So leaders have the ability to solve. The rest of the people have to move into what is called problem management. And those are 2 different skill sets. So manage means, how do I survive? How do I work with? How do I work around? How do I mitigate the negative effects of this person on my personal life, on my team, in this company, because I cannot solve it. Therefore, I need to manage it. And if you know the difference between the 2, your energy goes in the right direction. And here's what I would say to anybody. Hackers who, again, delight in stirring the pot, causing drama, hurting people, they are going to, I want you to ask them to do better. And in the workplace, if they're unready, unwilling, or unable, I strongly advocate that you terminate them. You're far better off being short-staffed than to have alligators running around in the workplace hurting people. And so that is a very brief introduction to the 5 types of people. And again, I'm open to any questions, and I'm glad y'all told me what my timeline was. Can you guess what one I am?
You gave me a thing to say at the end. Let me get to it. I want to say thank you, Shireen. And you can get copies of Shireen's books at her website. It's Shireen, MCHENENRY.com, or on Amazon. I just wanted to let you know that they are available. And does anyone have any questions before we close out our meeting?
No, I'll talk to you later. I need you to add something in your next week's newsletter. I need to have you put in a new member proposal. And if anybody else has any new members they would like to propose, get it on out there so that we
I like that. Okay, I was going to talk about that too, so I think we're on the same page with that, and we'll do that next week. Since we're running, it's almost 6:30. Let's close the meeting so we'll be done on time. Thank you, Shireen. I enjoyed it. We'll stay in touch.
My privilege and pleasure. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. It was very enjoyable, and I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So we're going to do, this is our 4-way test. It's what Rotary is about. of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Second, is
Is it fair to all
concern? Third, will it build
Will it
goodwill,
build
better
goodwill?
friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And our group, Shireen, has a fifth one. Will it be fun? So,
I love it. You all are in the right track, and what I hear you doing is cutting hacking behaviors off at the pass.
it's a nice group. I enjoy it because the people are like really interested in people. There are so much selfishness now in our world, and it's one of the few organizations where people actually care about other people. So I like that.
I like your hearts, and thank you again for letting me be part of your meeting.
Thank you, and consider joining. We'd love to have you. You don't have to be here. It's all online. You can be anywhere in the world. And it's,
Thank you, Howard.
okay.
Thanks, y'all.
Rick,
Bye-bye.
you can ring
Have
your
a good
bell.
week.
You can ring your bell and we'll close up.
I don't know if I know how, but I'll try. Thanks again.
Thanks again. Bye, everybody. See you next week.